They killed her for money, her own blood, her own family. They whispered lies, signed her death as fate, smiled over her coffin, and walked away. She left the world with nothing, no voice, no justice, no home. But death is patient, and so is she. In the shadows of the grave, she learned every secret, every sin they hid, every whispered betrayal, every stolen fortune, every masked smile. They thought she was gone. They thought their crimes were safe. They didn't know she was listening. They didn't know she was rising. Now, she's back. Not as the broken girl who trusted too much. Not as the helpless victim they laughed at. She's sharper, colder, smarter. And the world that abandoned her, it's about to learn what it means to fear someone who has nothing left to lose. She was the youngest, the quiet one, the one who smiled too much, who trusted too easily. Her family called her naive, called her soft. They called her lucky because she would inherit everything someday. But luck has a cruel way of turning. She gave them everything: her love, her loyalty, her heart. She cooked dinners, stayed up late, helped with debts she didn't owe. Every word she spoke, every favor she granted, they counted against her. Every moment of trust she offered, they used as a weapon. And then came the betrayal, the night of the will reading. She had hoped for smiles, for warmth, for a hint of gratitude. Instead, she found knives in their eyes. They accused her of theft, of lies, of a theft she never dreamed of committing. The lawyer, their accomplice, cold and precise, read words that shattered her world. She is no longer of sound mind. She is disinherited. She felt her world collapse like glass underfoot. Her name was spat out with venom. Her tears fell unnoticed. Her screams echoed, unanswered. Every friend, every familiar face, suddenly turned cold. They didn't just deny her inheritance, they denied her existence. And the final blow, an accident. Or so they claimed. She fell from the balcony that night, and the world whispered her death with relief. No funeral could hold the grief they caused. No memory could contain their lies. She died alone, broken, poor, humiliated. Their laughter haunted her dreams in the end, sharp, cruel, triumphant. She had trusted too much, loved too much, and they had taken everything. Everything, except her soul. Death was not the end. It was a doorway. She woke in silence, in darkness that smelled of earth and possibility. Her body was fragile, yet her mind was sharp, sharper than ever before. Pain had left her, replaced by clarity. Every betrayal, every cruelty, every sneer carved into memory now served as fuel. The world she had lost waited outside, but she no longer belonged to it. She was no longer the girl who bent to their whims, no longer the daughter who smiled too easily, who trusted too blindly. Something in her had changed. Her eyes were colder, calmer, and yet they burned with quiet fire. She learned quickly. Every secret she had overheard in whispers, every betrayal she had suffered, she carried as weapons. She studied people not as friends, not as lovers, not as daughters, but as chess pieces. Every weakness, every desire, every hidden greed, she catalogued. Nothing would surprise her again. Her body healed. Her mind sharpened. She learned to move unseen, to speak softly yet command attention. She built a life in the shadows, unnoticed, unstoppable. Money came, slowly, cleverly, but it was never the goal. Knowledge, power, precision, these became her inheritance. And love had once broken her. Now, she understood it as a choice, not a requirement. Trust, once her weakness, became her strategy. When she looked into mirrors, she did not see the girl who died on that balcony. She saw a woman who could bend the world to her will. The world that had mocked her, that had buried her, that had laughed at her pain, they would not recognize her. She was reborn, not in fury, but in patience, not in chaos, but in calm precision. And from this rebirth, a plan was born, a plan as delicate as it was deadly. She was coming back, and this time, she would not stumble. She returned like a shadow, silent, unnoticed, but sharper than any blade. The streets she once knew seemed smaller, familiar, and yet foreign. The laughter of her family echoed in her memory, and each sound was a drumbeat for what was coming. At first, she hid. She dressed in new clothes, spoke softly, smiled faintly. No one guessed the storm beneath her calm. Every glance she gave was measured, every word chosen. Her family saw a polite stranger, perhaps a distant relative, perhaps a friend of a friend. No one suspected the girl they had buried had returned alive, powerful, unstoppable. She studied them. She watched their habits, their secrets, their petty desires. The brother who had stolen her inheritance now drank too much in his office, ignoring deals that could save his company. The sister who had whispered lies now flaunted her wealth but slept in fear of scandal. Every weakness, every hidden crime, every foolish decision became a thread she could pull. Small victories came first. A tipped secret to a business rival, a misdirected email, a whisper at the right moment. Their lives began to wobble, subtly, almost imperceptibly. She never struck openly. She never revealed herself. She let their own greed and lies trip them, unravel them. And she felt the old pain, the humiliation, but now it was fuel, not chains. Her calm patience was terrifying, even to her. Every step she took was precise. Every smile hid a plan. She planted doubt. She sowed fear. She let them wonder why luck no longer favored them. All the while, she never forgot to watch. Their faces, their hands, their hearts, they were hers to study, hers to judge. She had returned not for revenge yet, not fully. She had returned to understand them, to master the game, to wait for the perfect moment. The world that had broken her thought she was gone. The world that had buried her thought her powerless. But she was neither gone nor powerless. She was everywhere and nowhere at once. The moment came quietly, like winter's first frost, sudden, sharp, and undeniable. She struck without fury, without spectacle. She did not yell. She did not scream. She let their own sins speak for themselves. The brother who had squandered her inheritance. His deals collapsed, contracts revealed to the world, his reputation crumbling under the weight of his greed. He begged, panicked, pleaded, but no one listened. She had only whispered to the right people at the right time, guiding the fall. The sister who had lied so easily, who had laughed at her humiliation. A secret long hidden was exposed, one that cost her everything she had built. Her wealth, her social standing, her pride, they slipped like sand through her fingers, and she watched from afar, calm, unmoved. Her parents, the orchestrators, the silent poisoners, found themselves trapped by their own deceit. Allies abandoned them. Old friends turned cold. Every lie they had used to control her now chained them in ruin. And through it all, she appeared not as a vengeful ghost, but as a whisper of inevitability. Polite smiles, kind words, gentle gestures. They never saw the trap. They never saw her. Regret flickered in their eyes, sharp and bitter. The same eyes that once gleamed with triumph now filled with fear. They reached for her, for forgiveness, for mercy. But she only nodded, soft and serene. Justice had no cruelty in her hands, only balance. She did not gloat. She did not celebrate. She only stood tall, dignity unbroken, pain transformed into power. Her heart, once crushed, was now untouched. Her spirit, once chained, now soared. For every tear they had caused, she gave one moment of truth. For every whispered betrayal, she delivered clarity. For every stolen dream, she returned reality, but only as it should have been. Theirs humbled, her soul whole. She had returned, yes, but she had also risen. And when they looked at her finally, truly, they saw not the girl they had destroyed, but the woman they had underestimated. She had won, and the victory was silent, perfect, complete. The storm had passed. The ashes of betrayal and revenge lay quietly behind her, scattered but powerless. The world that once suffocated her now moved beneath her like a gentle tide, predictable, calm, and safe. She walked through life unafraid, her steps light yet certain. The girl who had cried alone on cold nights was gone. In her place was a woman who knew her worth, who understood her power, who embraced her freedom. She no longer needed the approval of those who had once spat on her dreams. She was whole. Love found her quietly, softly, without fanfare. Not a fiery passion, but a gentle understanding. Someone who saw her strength, her calm, her scars, and still chose to stay. Someone who did not fear her past, nor try to fix it. Together, they built something delicate, resilient, a life of trust, laughter, and shared secrets. She kept her past close, but it no longer controlled her. Each memory of betrayal, each scar, each shadow of pain became a reminder of survival, of patience, of the woman she had become. She had mastered herself, and in mastering herself, she mastered the world around her. Her family? They existed in the background, ghosts of their own making. No threats, no whispers, no fear could reach her anymore. The power that had once been stolen from her had been returned not by anger, but by her own careful steps, her intelligence, and her resilience. She found joy in small things: morning sunlight through the curtains, a warm cup of coffee, the laughter of someone who loved her. She had reclaimed her life, not by destroying, but by rising. By stepping into her own light, she made the darkness irrelevant. And in that quiet, radiant space, she felt peace. True, unshakable, unearned, yet deserved. She had loved, lost, been betrayed, died, risen, and now finally she lived. She was free, not because the world had changed, but because she had. They buried her once, thinking silence would hold her. They never knew that a soul forged in pain cannot be contained. She learned to bloom in darkness, to rise through ashes, to turn every scar into strength. The world that betrayed her watches now, quiet and small, as she walks in light, unshaken, unstoppable. And though she forgave only herself, she carries no bitterness, only wisdom, only power, only the memory of what it means to survive, to rise, and to become something that no betrayal, no death, no cruelty could ever touch again.